What 1 to 5 things must I do underneath those over the course of the year? What number do I have to hit to actually create that result? If you did that, I guarantee this year would be completely different. Podcast Growth Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Podcast Growth University, where we talk all things podcasting all the time. I hope you enjoyed the latest episode. It was episode number 25, which blows my mind. You have to treat your podcast like a business long before it is one. We're gathering data. We're understanding the big difference between the short game and the long game, and we're investing in things that we believe will create some sort of return on investment, maybe not necessarily in the short run, but in the greater good, in the greater length of time. Today, for episode number 26, creating a most important list for 2023. So if you are listening to this when it first came out, I think it is a couple days before Christmas. If you celebrate Christmas, I do, huge fan. If not, we're coming up on the end of the year, which means we will be starting a new year completely fresh. So I thought to myself, all right, let's do an episode on creating a most important list for 2023. This one is kind of be more kind of freestyle than usual, I think, because we can go a lot of ways with this one. And then I will also preface it with, I think this is my 7th or 8th podcast of the day or something. So I am sleeping, but I'm going to bring that energy because, again, we're blessed to be able to do this every day. Grateful, and I want to act that way. So hopefully you had a quote-unquote successful, productive 2022. What would benefit you before we even create a most important list for 2023 is to do a 2022 year in review. So if you listen to Spotify, or think of it this way, if you are a podcaster who has your podcast on Spotify, you get an end-of-the-year update where it has your podcast was listened to in X amount of countries, and these people, X amount of subscribers, and these people were your top 10 listeners or whatever it is. You should do the same thing for everything else. So you can do how many listens did I have in 2022? How many guests did I have on in 2022? How many guest appearances did I make in 2022? How many dollars did I earn in 2022? Because at the end of the day, going back to the previous episode, if you don't have data to pull from, it's very hard not to make emotional decisions. So when we're creating a most important list for 2023, like I said, there's many different ways to go about this. It all starts with, what is your ultimate goal in 2023? So you might say, okay, last year, so in 2022, I had 1,000 downloads. I want to double that in 2023. So instead of having 1,000 downloads, I want to have at least 2,000. Okay, cool. What must we do in order to accomplish that goal? So I would break that into, okay, main goal is X amount of downloads. Cool. After that, what must we do in order to get those downloads? So you could literally break it into number of episodes, 52, right? Say you're just going to do one a week. Number of episodes, 52. I think it would be of value, and it would help me to have guests on. So I'm going to do 26 guest episodes. I'll do 26 guest episodes, and I'll do 26 solo episodes for a grand total of 52. Okay, what else should I do? I'm going to post on social media every single day. So I'm going to do 365 posts. Okay, cool. What else should I do? I really should create a Facebook group. All right, cool. In 2023, I'm going to create a Facebook group. All right, cool. What else should I do? Honestly, it would probably benefit me to be on at least 12 shows this year, one a month. All right, cool. I'm going to do that. And what you start to see, or here's another one, I'm going to get crystal clear on at least 30 listeners this year, meaning I'm going to get the name of somebody who is listening to this podcast, and I'm going to find a list to put them on. That way I can add more value to their life. Imagine if you started the year off with that level of intentionality. Imagine if you closed out the previous year with that level of intentionality, that level of data, and that level of opportunity to make different decisions moving forward. So if you're thinking about downloads, what are the most important things to get downloads? Social media is still important in different ways. Is your podcast going to get found and go viral because of social media? Not for 99.9% of us, but it does help remind. So I call social media reminder marketing. but it also is a way to add value. So I would say X amount of social media posts. Cool. X amount of shows guested on. Okay. If you are looking for speeches, how many speeches do we want? Right? And this is what happens. So then it gets to the point where you say, okay, if I want to have 26 guests on, how many messages must I send to get one guest? Okay. I must send 2 messages for me to even get one guest. So theoretically, I have to send 52 messages in order to get my 26 guests. Okay, cool. I also have to come up with 26 topics if I want to do 26 solo episodes. All right, cool. A number of guest appearances. And again, I am fried. I am past go, but I am going to power on through. So the number of guest appearances. It takes 5 messages for me to get on one show. Okay. So I want to do 12 shows this year. I got to send 60 messages. Okay, let me do that. All right. How many clients would I like to get this year? All right. Ideally, I would love to get, let's just say I'd love to get 6. I'd love to get a client every other month. How many messages does it take for me to get a client? It takes 10 messages for me to get a client. Okay. I got to send 60 messages. When you start reverse engineering and having that level of intentionality, you're not leaving things up to chance. Can I guarantee you're going to hit your numbers and get your goals? No. But I can also I can't guarantee, but I can almost guarantee that if you don't track it, it's most likely not going to happen. Again, there's a lot of people who win that kind of win by accident, and that's okay, nothing against them. But for the majority of us that are actually winning at the level we want, it's because we're reverse engineering and we're making sure we're creating and leveraging the right things. So my real point with this episode is for you to create a most important list for 2023, and you could have the 5 most important results. So number of downloads, number of episodes, number of free calls, number of clients, and number of guest appearances. Those could be your 5. What 1 to 5 things must I do underneath those over the course of the year? What number do I have to hit to actually create that result? If you did that, I guarantee this year would be completely different. And here's where I've seen this happen. When I start working with clients, I'll ask them a couple questions, like how many shows are you going on? I'm only going on 1 every other month. Okay, how many messages are you sending? Very few. Okay, what is your ultimate goal? I don't really know. How many should I go on? Well, it depends on your workload. There's not a level of clarity. And if there's not a level of clarity, it's very hard for there to be a level of intentionality. And if you're not reverse engineering it, you're kind of relying on luck. So for us, we're looking at number of downloads, number of free calls, number of guest appearances, number of clients, number of speeches. We're looking at number of reviews, number of Facebook group members, number of mailing list members. We have a lot of measurements, but that's because we have a lot of different departments. For you, you're most likely earlier on and you don't have that many measurements, but what are the 5 most important things for you? And then how do we break those into tactics that we can consistently do? And then you measure along the way and you say, okay, instead of 5 messages, it's only taking me 3 messages now to get a client or get on another show, whatever it is. Now I can change the way I approach this. I'm either ahead of my goal or I'm behind in terms of the goal that I'm trying to accomplish.
Hey, I wanted to give my experience working with Kevin and the rest of the Next Level University team. It has been such a seamless relationship. He is so easy to work with, Kevin, and he gives you all the information you need but doesn't overwhelm you. He's also meets you where you're at. So, if whatever you want to do, he'll make it work. And it's just, there's no stress, there's no drama. And everybody else that I've worked with has been patient with me because I am not technologically savvy. So they've been helpful and patient and just encouraging. And it's just been a fantastic experience. I highly, highly recommend working with them.
One of the biggest things I've seen is many people get into podcasting because they think podcasting is the way to win. Again, it's the sexy thing. It's kind of new, but Not really. It's not the fact that you're in podcasting that's going to create the opportunity for winning. It's the fact that you are behind the scenes doing intentional things. It's the same thing. I mean, yeah, YouTube has an algorithm just like a podcast does, and certain things matter more on YouTube than they do on the podcast. If you want to win on YouTube, you have to reverse engineer those things. You have to create some sort of results. Then you have to, so the results you want, then you have to reverse engineer how would I actually get those, and then that's what you do on the day-to-day. Those are the tactics. So that's really the meat of this episode. Maybe you are thinking to yourself, I already do this, Kev. Like, this isn't a big deal. Okay, maybe this episode isn't super valuable. Or what could you do to measure even more? What could you do to reverse engineer even more? What could you do to break it down and be even more systematized where you know exactly what you're doing on what day, from what time to what time? Because for most of you, you're most likely not doing this full time yet, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's even more important for you to have a system, have a schedule, be committed, really have that regiment, because you can't just say, well, it's noon, I'll do it at noon, or I'll do it first thing when I wake up. Maybe for you, you're at work at noon, or you go to work, or you go to the gym first thing when you wake up. So I do believe that having some sort of system and some sort of concrete way to look at things is super valuable. So again, last time I'll go through it. I would measure the number of downloads. I would measure the number of free calls, because if you're a coach and you're doing coaching, that's going to lead to clients. Number of guest appearances, because that's going to help the number of downloads. Number of clients, because that's going to determine the overall health of the business. And then you could do number of reviews if you wanted, number of episodes, number of number of guest episodes. You could do that too. So those are a few that I would measure. And again, I'm sorry, I am like fried. I have very little left in me, so I'm repeating myself. But I think that's where I would go. And again, a lot of us, we got to the end of this year and we probably are thinking, you know what, I didn't get the results I wanted. Why? Most likely because we didn't actually determine in writing what the results we wanted were, and then reverse engineer how to actually get those results. And it's the stuff that we're doing every day. And that's going to be in the next episode, 3 things you should be doing every day. I'll go into that, and I'll go into what do I do every day and what do I think are the most important things. I want to create a yearly goal, and then we break that down into daily habits. That's ultimately how we're going to win. So, simple question for you. Number 1, are you happy? Are you excited? Are you proud of what you accomplished in 2022? Second question, are you willing to do these things to make sure that if you didn't feel those things in 2022, you do feel those things in 2023? Again, a year is a long time. I mean, you got 52 episodes if you're doing an episode a week. That is a lot of opportunity. That is 52 potential social media posts for the podcast, just right there based on the episodes. That's 52 potential story posts. You jumping on your story on whatever social media platform you're using after you do the episode. That's 52 potential guests, 52 potential networking opportunities. Depending on who you're having for guests, maybe that's 52 potential clients. So really understand that over the course of the year, a lot of things can change. If you're somebody right now who has never done coaching, or you've never gotten a high-level guest, a lot can change in a year. But it's not going to change by accident, most likely. It's going to change based on you doing the right things at the right time with the right intention. So it's almost 2023. Mind-blowing. It's very, very mind-blowing. We actually just crossed 700,000 downloads with my other podcast, Next Level University, today. So that was really, really fun. And then we crossed our lifetime gross income. We crossed $500,000 a couple weeks ago. I think we're at like $520,000 that we made in that business. So again, there's going to be a lot of people that tell you, look, you're crazy. You can't make money podcasting, whatever. Of course, there's a lot of people that say that because it is rare, and there's a lot of people who have tried that haven't done it. Number 1, you got to play the long game, going back to last episode. Number 2, you have to understand that if you measure the right things, you'll understand whether or not you're growing. last thing I'll say on this episode, I was on the phone with a client today, and we were talking about his listens. And he said, yeah, the last couple of weeks, my listens haven't been super high. And I said, well, you have to look at the overall. Just because for the last couple of weeks they haven't been high doesn't mean that the month isn't going to be high, and it doesn't mean that you're still averaging more than you used to. There's a lot of metrics we can look at, and we should be looking at, because it's going to help us determine whether or not we're winning. And you might get a month in, 2 months into this new year, and you might be disheartened because you don't feel like you're winning. Make sure you have the data to back that up, because emotions can be tricky. Data is usually very logical, and it helps us make great decisions. Next week, for episode number 27, 3 things you should be doing every day. I will literally take you, so I have we call it peak performance tracking, and I think I have 24 habits that I do every day. I will literally make a list of them, and I will take you through what I do every day, and then I will say, these are probably the most important 3 things for you. Again, depending on where you are in the journey, but I think that'll be a really interesting episode. Again, it will be a little bit overwhelming, but I'm going to break it down to what you should be doing on the day in and the day out. Thank you to everybody who has been listening. I've gotten a lot of messages, and I appreciate that so very much, more than you know. I never really expected to start a podcast about podcasts, so that happened in 2022. Now I have 2 podcasts. Awesome. Doing 8 episodes a week is a lot, but I am very, very happy, very, very grateful. I appreciate each and every one of you that listens to this, and just promise me you won't quit until you try absolutely everything. If there's a lot of people out there that had a really good thing going in 2022 and they just quit because they said, it didn't happen this year. It might not happen this year, but it's definitely not going to happen if you quit. And just because it doesn't happen all the way doesn't mean it's not in the process of happening. As always, if you need anything, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to book a free call, my link is in the show notes. If not, you can reach out to me directly. My handle is @NeverQuitKid. I will be going hard with content in 2023. I haven't done a lot of social media content for this show yet because I've been focused on Next Level You, but I think 2023 is going to be the year where I really go all in on podcasting, because it's kind of my thing. I really enjoy podcasting. I love it, and I love talking about it. So I'm actually planning on going to Florida in January. There's a big event down there. I have the potential to be a fill-in speaker or have a panel. So we'll keep our eyes and ears peeled for that. If you are going to that event, if you're in Florida, let me know. Maybe we can meet up at the event or something. All right, I'm going to go. As always, I appreciate you all very much. I hope that you had a productive year. If you celebrate the holidays, if you celebrate Christmas, I hope it is amazing for you. And I will talk to you next week. Keep on podcasting.